I never thought I'd be the kind of grandmother who'd need to play detective. But when your grandson starts getting violently ill after every meal his stepfather makes and the doctors can't figure out why, you learn to trust that gnawing feeling in your gut. What I discovered in David's car that rainy Tuesday afternoon didn't just save Lucas's life. It revealed a truth so dark, I still wake up at night thinking about my daughter. My name is Margaret, and I'm 62 years old. I taught elementary school for 37 years before retiring 5 years ago. My life was simple, predictable even. Sunday dinners with my daughter Lisa and her family. Garden club on Wednesdays. Book club on Fridays. Then Lisa got sick. The doctors called it aggressive breast cancer. Stage 4 by the time they caught it. She fought for 18 months, and I watched my beautiful, vibrant daughter waste away to nothing. The chemo ravaged her body. She couldn't keep food down. Her hair fell out in clumps. By the end, she was so thin I could see every bone in her face. David was devoted during those final months. I'll give him that. He never left her side at the hospital. He held her hand through every treatment. When she passed 2 years ago, I thought at least Lucas still has a good father. At least David will take care of my grandson. 6 months after Lisa died, David started dating Sarah. Another 6 months, and they were married. I tried to be happy for him. People grieve differently, I told myself. Maybe he needs someone to help him move forward, to help raise Lucas. But something felt off from the beginning. Lucas was 10 when his mother died. He'd been a happy, energetic kid, played soccer, got straight A's, had a smile that could light up a room, just like Lisa's. After David remarried, I noticed changes. Lucas got quieter, more withdrawn. The light in his eyes dimmed. Last summer, David called and asked if Lucas could stay with me for July and August. Sarah's mother was sick, he explained, and they needed to travel back and forth to Phoenix a lot. It would be easier if Lucas was settled somewhere rather than dragging him around. Of course I said yes. I'd been begging for more time with my grandson anyway. The first week Lucas was with me, everything seemed fine. We went to the beach, built sandcastles, ate ice cream on the boardwalk. He laughed again. And God, it was good to hear that sound. But every Sunday evening, David would pick Lucas up for dinner at their house. It was their routine, he said. Father-son time. Every Monday morning, Lucas would be back at my house, pale and shaking. The first time it happened, Lucas said his stomach hurt. He'd thrown up 3 times during the night at his dad's house. I figured it was something he ate. Maybe the rich food didn't agree with him. But when it happened the second Sunday, then the third, I started keeping notes. Sunday dinner at Dad's. Monday morning, Lucas is sick. Vomiting, diarrhea, stomach cramps. By Tuesday, he'd start to feel better. By Wednesday, he'd be back to normal. Then Sunday would roll around again, and the cycle would repeat. After the 4th week, I took Lucas to our family doctor. Dr. Patterson ran blood tests, stool samples, checked for food allergies, celiac disease, lactose intolerance. Everything came back normal. It might be anxiety, Dr. Patterson suggested gently. He lost his mother. His father remarried quickly. These Sunday dinners might be stressful for him. But anxiety doesn't make a child vomit blood, which is what happened the 5th week. I took Lucas to the emergency room that Monday morning. His lips were cracked and bleeding. He was so dehydrated they had to give him IV fluids. The ER doctor was concerned. She asked careful questions. Was anyone new in Lucas's life? Had there been any changes at home? Any new medications? His father makes him special meals on Sundays, I mentioned, almost as an afterthought. Lucas has always been a picky eater, so David prepares dishes he knows Lucas likes. The doctor made a note but didn't seem alarmed. Kids get sick. It happens. But I couldn't shake the pattern. It was too consistent, too predictable. Every single Sunday dinner at his father's house. Every single Monday morning, Lucas was violently ill. I started dreading Sundays. The 6th week, I suggested Lucas skip the dinner. "Why don't you stay here with me?" I offered. "We can make your favorite spaghetti and meatballs." Lucas's face went pale. "Dad will be upset," he whispered. "He says Sunday dinner is our special time. He says it's the only time he gets to take care of me properly." Something about the way Lucas said "take care of me properly" made my skin crawl. That Sunday, I drove Lucas to David's house myself. It was a beautiful home in the newer development by the marina. David and Sarah had moved there right after the wedding. As I pulled into the driveway, I saw David standing at the window, watching. When he came to the door, his smile was broad, but his eyes were cold. "Margaret, what a surprise. I was just about to pick Lucas up. I thought I'd save you the trip," I said lightly. "What are you making for dinner tonight?" "Lucas's favorite. Chicken and rice with that special gravy he loves. I have a whole system for making it just right." I glanced past him into the kitchen. The counter was covered with bottles and containers, more than seemed necessary for a simple dinner. "That's wonderful that you go to so much trouble," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Lucas is lucky to have such a caring father." David's smile didn't waver, but something flickered in his eyes. "I'd do anything for my son, anything at all." The way he emphasized anything made my heart race. I hugged Lucas goodbye, holding him a beat too long. "You call me if you need anything, sweetheart, anything at all." Lucas nodded, but he wouldn't meet my eyes. I drove home with my hands shaking on the steering wheel. Something was wrong. Something was terribly, horribly wrong. But I had no proof, no evidence. Just a grandmother's instinct, and a pattern that was too consistent to ignore. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Lisa, about how sick she'd gotten. The doctors said it was cancer, aggressive, and fast-moving, but she'd had strange symptoms before the diagnosis: nausea, vomiting, hair loss that started before the chemo. At the time, we attributed everything to the disease. But what if? No, I couldn't let myself think that. It was too horrible, too unthinkable. But once the thought entered my mind, I couldn't shake it. Around midnight, I did what any desperate grandmother would do. I got on my computer and started researching. I typed in child sick after eating and repeated food poisoning and stepfather poisoning stepson. The last search made me feel sick. What kind of person even thinks such things? But the results that came up made me feel sicker. I learned about Munchausen syndrome by proxy, about parents who deliberately make their children sick for attention or sympathy. I read about cases of poisoning that went undetected for months, even years, and then I found something that made my blood run cold. Arsenic poisoning. The symptoms matched perfectly: nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, stomach pain, hair loss, and if administered in small doses over time, it could mimic chronic illness. It could even mimic cancer. I thought about Lisa again, about her rapid decline, about how devoted David had been, always making her special smoothies and soups, always encouraging her to eat, even when she felt nauseous, always so concerned, so caring. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely type. I searched for arsenic poisoning symptoms in cancer patients. The symptoms were identical. At 2 a.m, my phone rang. It was David. "Margaret, I'm so sorry to call at this hour. Lucas is sick again. High fever. He's asking for you. Would you mind coming to get him? I'd bring him myself. But Sarah's feeling under the weather too, and I don't want to leave her alone." My mind was racing. "Of course. I'll be there in 20 minutes. Use your key. The front door will be unlocked. I'll have Lucas ready." I'd never been given a key to David's house. The hair on the back of my neck stood up. "I don't have a key, David." There was a pause. "Oh, right. My mistake. I must be confusing you with someone else. I'll leave the front door unlocked then." I grabbed my purse and my phone. As I was heading out the door, I stopped. Something David said was bothering me. "I'll have Lucas ready." Ready for what? On impulse, I called my best friend Dorothy. She'd been a nurse for 40 years before retiring. I trusted her completely. "Dorothy, I need you to do something for me, and I need you to not ask questions right now." "Margaret, it's 2 a.m. I know. I'm going to David's house to pick up Lucas. He's sick again. I need you to meet me there. Bring your medical bag if you still have it. And Dorothy, park down the street. Don't let David see you." There was a long pause. "Are you in danger?" "I don't think so. But Lucas might be. I'll be there in 15 minutes. I drove to David's house with my mind spinning. The streets were empty at this hour. Our little coastal town rolled up its sidewalks after 10. When I pulled up to the house, I noticed the upstairs lights were off. Only the kitchen light was on, casting a yellow glow through the windows. The front door was unlocked, just as David had said. I pushed it open slowly. "David? I'm here." No answer. I walked through the foyer into the living room. Everything was spotless, perfectly arranged, not a pillow out of place, not a single toy or sign that a 10-year-old boy lived here. "David?" I called again, louder this time. "In the kitchen." "Margaret." I followed his voice. David was standing at the stove, stirring something in a small pot. The smell made my stomach turn. Sweet, but with a bitter chemical undertone. "I'm making Lucas some special tea," David said without turning around. "It always makes him feel better." "Where is Lucas?" "Upstairs, resting. He'll be down in a minute." I moved toward the stairs, but David stepped in front of me. "Let me bring him the tea first. It'll help settle his stomach." Every instinct I had was screaming at me to get Lucas and run, but I needed to be smart. I needed evidence. "Actually, David, I'm not feeling well myself. Would you mind if I used your bathroom?" David's eyes narrowed slightly, but he nodded. "Of course. You know where it is." I walked down the hall to the bathroom, but instead of going in, I slipped into the garage. David's car was parked inside, a silver BMW that had been Lisa's. He'd kept it after she died. My hands were shaking as I opened the passenger door and popped the glove compartment. Registration, insurance papers, owner's manual. Nothing unusual. I felt under the seat. Nothing. Then I opened the center console. There, hidden beneath some napkins and old receipts, was a small brown bottle. I pulled it out, squinting to read the label in the dim light from my phone. White arsenic trioxide, USP grade. Next to it was a bottle labeled multivitamin powder for children. I'd found it. The evidence I needed. But as I stood there holding the bottles, the full horror of what this meant crashed over me. David hadn't just been poisoning Lucas. He'd poisoned Lisa, too. My beautiful daughter hadn't died of cancer. She'd been murdered by her own husband. I heard footsteps behind me and spun around. David was standing in the doorway to the garage, holding a steaming mug. His face was calm, almost serene. "I suppose you had to find out eventually," he said softly. My phone was in my hand. I'd already pressed Dorothy's number, and I prayed she'd have the sense to call the police if she heard anything alarming. "Why?" My voice came out as a whisper. David shrugged. "The first time? Money, honestly. Lisa had a life insurance policy from her teaching job, $500,000. We were struggling financially. My business was failing. It seemed like the easiest solution. You killed your wife for money? I didn't mean for it to go that far at first. I just wanted her sick enough to quit her job, to stay home. The disability payments would have helped. But then I realized how much more I'd get if she passed. And the cancer diagnosis was just perfect. No one questions cancer. Everyone's so sympathetic. Poor David, losing his wife so young. Poor David, left to raise his son alone. He smiled, and it was the most chilling thing I'd ever seen. I got away with it perfectly. So why, Lucas? Why would you hurt your own son? Because Sarah's getting suspicious. She found my financial records. She knows about the insurance payout. I need Lucas's insurance money to pay her off, to keep her quiet. And honestly, Margaret, I'm good at this. It's almost easy. A little powder in his vitamin drink. A little extra in his Sunday dinners. The doctors never suspect a thing. You're insane. No, I'm practical. And you're now a problem I need to solve. He started moving toward me, and I backed up until I hit the car. My phone was still in my hand, the line to Dorothy still open. "You know I can't let you leave here, Margaret." "The police are already on their way," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "My friend heard everything, and your son is worth more to me alive than any amount of money is worth to you." David's expression changed. For the first time, uncertainty crossed his face. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder. David lunged toward me. But I was ready. I swung my purse at his head with all my strength. The contents, including my heavy leather wallet and my keys, connected with his temple. He stumbled backward. I ran past him, screaming Lucas's name. I took the stairs 2 at a time and found my grandson in his bedroom, pale and sweating but alive. "Grandma? We're leaving, baby. Right now." I scooped him up, even though he was almost as tall as me now, and carried him down the stairs just as the police were breaking through the front door. Dorothy was right behind them, her phone still pressed to her ear, tears streaming down her face. The rest of that night was a blur. Paramedics, police statements, lab tests. They took the bottles from David's car. They took samples from Lucas's hair and blood. They even exhumed Lisa's body for testing. The results confirmed everything. Lisa had been systematically poisoned with arsenic for over a year before she died. The cancer diagnosis had been real, but the arsenic had weakened her immune system so severely that the cancer had spread at an abnormal rate. The doctors said she might have survived if she'd been healthy enough to handle the treatment. David had killed my daughter slowly, deliberately, while playing the role of devoted husband. Lucas had arsenic levels in his system that would have been fatal in another few weeks. Sarah was questioned extensively. She ultimately cooperated with the investigation in exchange for immunity. She'd suspected something was wrong but had been too afraid to speak up. David had been controlling, manipulative, threatening. She'd married him 3 months after meeting him, and by then, she was trapped. David was arrested and charged with first-degree murder for Lisa's death and attempted murder for Lucas. The trial lasted 6 weeks. I sat through every single day of it, holding Lucas's hand. The prosecutor built an airtight case. The bottles in David's car, the poison in Lucas's system, the exhumed evidence from Lisa's body, financial records showing David's motive. Testimony from me, from Dorothy, from Sarah, from Lucas's doctors. David showed no emotion throughout the trial. He sat there in his expensive suit, looking like the successful businessman he pretended to be. Only once did his mask slip. When Lucas took the stand and described how his father had told him the vitamin drinks were special medicine to help you grow strong like your mom would want, David's face twisted with something that might have been shame. But it was gone in a second. The jury deliberated for less than 4 hours. Guilty on all counts. David was sentenced to life in prison without possibility of parole for Lisa's murder, plus an additional 25 years for the attempted murder of Lucas. The judge called it one of the most calculated, cold-blooded betrayals of family trust she'd seen in 30 years on the bench. That was 8 months ago. Lucas lives with me now. Full custody, permanently. We're both in therapy. He has nightmares sometimes. So do I. But every morning, I wake up and see my grandson breathing, laughing, growing. The color has returned to his cheeks. He's gained 15 pounds. He's back on the soccer team. Last week, he brought home a science project that won first place. When I hugged him and told him how proud I was, he said something that made me cry. "Grandma, you saved my life. When I grow up, I want to be brave like you." But I wasn't brave. I was just a grandmother who paid attention, who trusted her instincts when something felt wrong, who refused to ignore the pattern, even when the truth seemed too horrible to believe. After David's sentencing, I requested copies of Lisa's medical records from the beginning of her illness. I read through them carefully, and I found something that haunts me still. 3 months before her cancer diagnosis, Lisa had told her doctor she thought she was being poisoned. The doctor had noted it in her chart as paranoid ideation, possibly related to depression. My daughter tried to tell someone. She knew something was wrong, and no one listened. I think about that a lot. I think about all the times Lisa must have been afraid, must have suspected, must have wanted to speak up but feared people would think she was crazy. I think about how she spent her final months believing her body was betraying her, never knowing it was the person she trusted most. That's the part that keeps me up at night. Not David's evil, though, that's bad enough, but the fact that Lisa tried to warn someone and she was dismissed. Her intuition was right, and it was ignored. So now I share this story whenever I can. I tell it at community centers and support groups. I've spoken at medical conferences. I want doctors to know, to really hear me. When someone says they think they're being poisoned, investigate. Don't dismiss them. Don't assume they're paranoid or depressed. And I want grandparents, parents, friends, anyone who loves a child to know, trust your gut. If something feels wrong, it probably is. Don't talk yourself out of your instincts. Don't worry about seeming paranoid or overprotective. I was terrified of being wrong. I was terrified of accusing my son-in-law of something so evil. I was terrified of destroying what was left of our family. But I would have been more terrified to lose Lucas the way I lost Lisa. 3 weeks ago, I got a letter from a woman in Ohio. She said she'd seen my story on the news. Her daughter had been sick for months, getting worse every time she visited her ex-husband. The pattern was similar to what happened with Lucas. The woman had taken her concerns to the police. They'd investigated. They'd found medication in the ex-husband's apartment that he'd been secretly putting in the daughter's food. That little girl is safe now because her grandmother paid attention, because she trusted that gnawing feeling in her gut, because she heard my story and recognized the pattern. That's why I keep telling it, because somewhere out there might be another Lucas, another child who's getting sick in a pattern that's too consistent to be coincidence. Another person who knows something is wrong but is afraid to speak up. This is me telling you. Speak up. Act. Be brave enough to be wrong if it means you might be right. Lucas and I are building a new life together. We're selling David's house, it's been tied up in court until now, and using the money to set up a foundation in Lisa's name. We're funding research into arsenic poisoning detection and supporting families affected by Munchausen syndrome by proxy. We're turning our tragedy into something that might save other families. Last Sunday, Lucas asked if we could start a new tradition. Can Sunday be our day, Grandma? Just you and me. We can make dinner together, real dinner, the safe kind. So now, Sundays are ours. We cook together, we laugh together, we're reclaiming the day that used to fill us both with dread. Yesterday, Lucas made chicken and rice, the dish his father used to make him, but this time he made it with love, not poison. This time, we ate it together, and nothing bad happened. We were just a grandmother and grandson sharing a meal. And when I tucked him into bed last night, Lucas said something that finally let me breathe again. I feel safe now, Grandma. For the first time in a long time, I really feel safe. That's all I ever wanted. For him to be safe. For him to grow up healthy and happy. The way Lisa would have wanted. I couldn't save my daughter. But I saved her son. And maybe, by sharing this story, I can help someone save theirs too. If you're reading this and something feels wrong in your family, in your life, in a situation involving a child, trust that feeling. Investigate. Ask questions. Don't stop until you get answers. Because patterns don't lie. Bodies don't lie. And that voice in your head that whispers something's not right, that voice is worth listening to. It saved Lucas's life. It could save someone you love too.